This is a project I worked on earlier in the summer that I haven't got around to talking about yet, but bare metal deployments, basically you take a box and you put an OS on it. So this is what Razor does for us. Yeah, it's quite simple really. Basically Razor has this process to do this though. It takes your box and it pixie boots it, and it grabs a load of information off of it using a little Linux microkernel. It then takes all that information and stores it into a database. Once it's in the database, it has this thing called tags, and so it matches the tags to the information it's collected from the server. Once it's done that, it pixie boots again and goes, okay, now I know what to do with you, have an OS. And it stores the OS. So why are we doing this? Basically, SCCM is really quite expensive, whereas Razor is free. So in an attempt to save some money, we are not paying for the £130,000 licenses for System Center by getting rid of all of the System Center components that we really don't need to use. So how do we use this? So at the moment, all of our test agents and build agents are being built with Razor. For us, it is a simple case of making a little YAML file that configures the server and then running these two lines of PowerShell. So a couple of scripts that Nico and I wrote between us that then do these things. So I'd love to give you a demo, but you probably don't want to sit here for an hour. So no, you can't have a demo. But I did go through and I took all the screenshots so I can show you basically what it does. First, it tells Slack that the machine's going down, and then it goes and it gets all of those YAML files and chucks them into Razor's database. Once it's done that, it goes, Razor, which server is test agent 512? And Razor replies and it goes, okay, we'll reinstall that. Once it's done that, the server restarts, and then you get Pixie again. Hey. And then you load the kernel and collect the information and then boot again. This time you can see, I don't know if you can see, it says Windows in there. And then you get Windows. Wahee. This is about the only solution we actually managed to find that will install Windows from Linux. Which, yeah, all the rest of them are paid for. And then you install Windows and you boot Windows and then it installs Puppet. So if you don't know what Puppet is, Puppet takes a blank server and configures it for you. So a lot of our servers are now configured with Puppet, which means that we can do this process. And it basically uses no human interaction to set up a new server. And then we're ready to go-ish. The second line of that command is actually what runs Puppet. So this tells Puppet to run and then keeps querying Puppet to see if there's any changes left. Once there are no changes, registers the things back onto Team City and your builds start going again. Whee. Okay, and so what's next? What this process now means is that because we've got two commands that we can run to reinstall an agent, we could schedule those. So the idea is that potentially we'd run 3 of the test agents every week on a Friday at midnight, and they'd just reinstall and be ready the next morning, which means that they'll be up to date and they'll be consistent, because at the moment I think things change on the servers and they drift from where they should be, which is good. And then at that point we can scale, so any of our servers that we currently configure with Puppet could then be deployed by Razor, which again removes the need for SCCM for any of our servers in theory. In fact, you can also deploy Razor using Puppet. In fact, that's how it was deployed originally. And if we took the time and effort, we could then deploy Puppet using Razor, which then gets you into a sort of loop where as long as we've got one of them, we can deploy the other, and therefore we can deploy everything.